I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh. We're having some international audio connection issues, so we're going to be going to the Human Rights Watch report on Gaza, as well as on mass graves in Syria, a little later in the broadcast. But we're going to look right now at what's happening here at home in California.
The U.S. government has agreed to pay nearly $116 million to settle lawsuits brought by 103 women who survived sexual abuse and assault at a federal prison in Dublin, California, which was shuttered earlier this year. The facility, FCI Dublin, became known as the Rape Club due to rampant sexual abuse by prison staff, including the former warden, who's now in jail after being convicted of sexually abusing women at the prison. The Los Angeles Times reports $116 million is the largest amount ever paid by the federal government for misconduct at a federal prison.
We're joined now by two guests. Courtney Hanson is a community organizer with the California Coalition for Women Prisoners, which helped launch the Dublin Prison Solidarity Coalition to advocate alongside survivors for systemic changes inside prisons. Aimee Chavira was formerly incarcerated at FCI Dublin and is part of the class action sexual abuse lawsuit against the Federal Bureau of Prisons. We're going to go first to Courtney. Courtney Hanson, explain the background of this case.
Well, as you said, this current monetary settlement is the largest aggregate settlement in BOP history. And we are seeing this type of legal victory because of the courage of survivors who are incarcerated at FCI Dublin. And our organization, the California Coalition for Women Prisoners, started going into Dublin in 2022 with extremely dedicated attorneys to hear these survivors who are speaking out and build power and solidarity with them across the walls.
And Aimee, if you could respond to this decision by the federal government to pay $116 million to women. You yourself were in prison there.
Yes. Hi, good morning. What do I think? I think this is a victory. I think this shows that everything that has been going on in there was, and it is true, and it's still going on. It doesn't change anything. Money, no amount of money will change what was done to us and what continues to happen.
Aimee, can you explain what did happen? Tell us over these last years what took place and when you were imprisoned there in the Dublin federal prison.
Sexual abuse, rape, assault, verbal abuse, retaliation. Behind these federal walls, people don't understand and can't imagine the severity of this problem. We were sentenced to go to prison and pay for our crime, which is no problem. But that wasn't happening. We were paying for our crime and being assaulted, sexually assaulted, mistreated, retaliated on. It went from locking us in our room. I was locked in my room and asked for me to conduct sexual activities or things. I was retaliated, sent by the warden, who is now in prison, as I complained. There's a lot of, once you start complaining behind, when you're in prison, the retaliation starts. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's not funny. These are real things that are going on in these prisons, not just Dublin. FCI Dublin went through this. This is across the board. These are all prisons. I'm sorry if I get a little bit emotional. The retaliation went from, once you complain to the warden, I myself complained to the warden on one morning. That same morning, he sent Officer Ramos, who is no longer alive. He took his own life, with another officer, Officer DeLuca. They restrict searched 3 inmates in my cell, then took me to, which is called R&D. It's when you get to prison and, you got to go through this process. And I was taken there to get strip searched, to later on being asked and demanded that it was a direct order for me to strip, hand my clothes over and use my fingers, my hand, to go across my private part. Not one, not two, a couple, more than a couple of times. Is this right? Is this what? I don't think my judge sentenced me to go through this. These are heinous crimes. The punishment that I believe they should get is more than what we have gotten. We have gotten very far, and I'm very grateful. I have joy, but we still have a long journey ahead of us to keep fighting for, for these officers in uniform to be held accountable.
Aimee, I just want to say how brave you are, what a woman of courage you are to be willing to speak out about what happened to you. And of course, what this has led to is this more than $100 million settlement. And I'm wondering, Courtney, if you can explain how this was organized. This in no way takes away this pain and suffering from the women in the prison, but how this settlement came about.
Well, I just want to say also it has been truly the honor of a lifetime to organize alongside courageous survivors like Aimee, and this was truly a robust, collective, grassroots effort that could not have happened, first of all, without survivors organizing amongst themselves, and then dedicated movement attorneys, those at Rights Behind Bars and the California Collaborative for Immigrant Justice, and then our organization also with an inside-outside model going in and bringing the information and the stories and the demands out. And it's also important to note that this monetary win comes on the heels of another massive legal victory earlier this month in a separate but related class action lawsuit in which our organization was a lead plaintiff alongside individual survivors. And this is a lawsuit that is demanding, and it looks like winning through a proposed settlement agreement and consent decree, policy changes. We need policy changes to ensure that this type of staff sexual abuse stops happening. And like Aimee said, it's still happening all across BOP facilities in this country where Dublin survivors are still being held by their abusers.